Hi, this is Trevor from History on the Move, and I have my good friend Garry Pace here. And
Hello.
Garry and I have been volunteering. Well, Garry, you've been here longer than I have.
16 years.
Shoo! That is longer than my 9 years. And so we're here at the B&O Railroad Museum in the Restoration Shop today. And we want to talk to you and kind of give you some really good information about volunteering in general, volunteering at a railroad museum, because that's where we are, and what's it like, and what do you get to do? Stay tuned for that here on History on the Move. All right, so Garry, tell me, what is your first interaction with just volunteering in general? Like, how did you get into this? What's the meat and potatoes?
Well, my first volunteering was when I joined the Volunteer Fire Company back in 1973.
Okay.
Which led me into my career in the fire service. Then when I retired from the fire service, I always liked trains and found out you could volunteer here at the Railroad Museum. And then I found out you could volunteer actually running trains and working on trains.
Okay.
And stuff like that, restoration and all. So I applied and I came here in 2009 and I've been here ever since then.
And like, okay, so, and you are now the ASRO, you're the Assistant Superintendent of Rail Ops. As a volunteer, basically kind of the head volunteer of all the volunteers in Rail Ops. Is that fair statement to make?
Yeah, pretty much so. Dwayne McCoy, who is the Superintendent of Rail Ops, he is an employee. He's the overall boss, per se.
Head honcho.
Head honcho. But I do a lot of work outside of what he does here. After I got certified as a conductor, then I was asked to take over the conductor training program, and then I got certified as an engineer, and I also got certified in air brakes and all, and I do all the air brake testing here that's mandated by the Federal Rail Administration.
Okay, and well, like, in terms of corralling volunteers, how does that, like, how do you keep all these people that are unpaid but motivated to be here? Like, how do you do that?
Well, it's not hard if the people like what they're doing, like I did.
Right.
You know, I turned 70 this year, and I still work on track. And I still work on these locomotives, get down in the pit, get dirty and all, because I like doing it.
Right.
You got to find people that like doing that. There's a lot of rail fans out there, but when they find out that, you know, there's more to it than just showing up and hanging
watching them go by.
Yeah, watch them go by. It was the same in the volunteer fire department. You know, they wanted to ride a fire truck, but then they found out they had to take training, and that changes their mind. So you got to have a passion for what you want to volunteer, and even more than a career. I mean, when I was in the fire service, I had a passion for it because I loved it. But with something like this, you got to have a passion for what you're doing.
So that's what really kind of keeps people, you think, grounded here. Like, what's your biggest thing for retention, right? Because you and I have both seen volunteers, they come in the door, sometimes they go out the door, sometimes they stay.
It's that basically that.
Yeah.
The thing is with volunteers, you know, you can always use it, well, I'm just a volunteer, but there is a commitment involved in it. You know, if you're going to volunteer your time to any type of organization, you need to commit the time, you need to commit the effort, and you need to commit to the training. Just like today, we were doing the conductor's class. So we're asking people to come in on their Sunday and spend 2.5 hours training. Yeah. And you got to commit to that. But at the end, there's a lot of fun to it too. You know, we have a lot of fun getting together, you know, and becoming a solid group.
The cookouts are always fun.
Oh yeah, the cookouts are good. Yeah.
And in your viewpoint, like, because Garry and I have both seen this in our time here, is people will come in the door and they need to, like Garry said, they got to stay for the right reasons. So, I don't know, you know, when you, even in the volunteer fire department, I assume you have people that maybe they're motivated for a year or two and then they leave. But that passion, that drive within, that's what keeps them, would you say?
Yeah, I've seen, back in, like me, I started in the volunteers, but then I went into the military, became a military firefighter. Then I came out of the military and I went into the career service, and I was way late in the career service when I joined the volunteer fire company that was near where I live. And I joined it more to just help the community and, you know, be around a couple of people that I knew. And it started to become more of a commitment because I was working in the career department, but because I liked it so much, that's what I did. You know, you take a look, we've got several volunteers here that work for the railroad or had worked for the railroad,
Right.
but their passion was for the railroad.
Right.
So any type of volunteer organization you have, you know, you might have somebody that was a volunteer, might have been a nurse. Now she's volunteering for Doctors with No Borders and stuff like that,
Right.
you know. So it's always a passion for what you do. That's the important thing.
And have you seen that, because you're a part of the National Railroad Historical Society, the Baltimore chapter. You're the El Presidente,
Yeah, I'm
right?
the president of that.
So that's all volunteer, right? People that
Yes.
show up to that in terms of getting events and all that stuff. And is that kind of the same mentality?
Yeah, the thing is, it's a little bit different because I guess they call them foamers.
Right.
Or, you know, rail nuts and all.
Right.
You know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not somebody that's going to stand by the railroad tracks when it's 15 below zero to take a picture.
Yeah, I have no business doing that.
Yeah, you know, of a train that I've seen 100 times.
But good for those people, though.
Yeah,
if you want to
good
get
for
out
them
there,
if
by
they-
all means.
Yeah,
But wear
do
a
that.
hat and coat and gloves.
Yeah, no kidding. And stay off the tracks. But, you know, when you get a chance to work on one of these locomotives behind you and you fire it up and it's running and you did it, there's a lot of self-pleasure in that, you know, and that's what keeps me going.
What about camaraderie? Talk to me about that. Like,
Oh, it's great, especially in rail ops. When I was in the career fire department, we were a brotherhood, sisterhood. We looked out for each other. We cared for each other. We did things with each other's families and stuff like that. When I came here and I got into rail ops, I found out we had the same thing here. You know, as Trevor just said about the cookouts are great. But a lot of times, like on Saturdays, this is a big day here. We sit in the kitchen for an hour and a half before we even start laughing and making fun of people and that kind of stuff. And that's all a part of it. And then all of a sudden, you know, Dwayne and I get up and it's time to get down to business and out we go.
and you know, that's something I found too, is when you come here, you may not be, we'll say it, any place you volunteer, you may not be accepted right away. And that's something like, that's an expectation for you out there watching this, that you may not be taken in right away. You have to kind of put in your time and prove to people, especially around this type of stuff that we're in, that you're safe and that you are not complacent around railroad equipment.
You're committed.
Yeah, you're committed, because this stuff will kill you
Yeah.
in an instant.
Yeah. And then you were talking about just volunteering in general. There is a hierarchy in volunteers. I saw it in the volunteer fire company, you know, and all. And then, yes, you're right, you know, it takes a little bit to be accepted, but it's kind of like that everywhere.
Yeah.
Whether you're working a career job or whatever, you kind of got to prove yourself that you're making the commitment. And like Trevor said, especially here with the safety. But as the thing is with the volunteers is, if you're going to volunteer for something, don't do it for yourself. Do it for the organization that you're
Yes.
doing it for.
Yeah.
And commit yourself to that.
Well, I don't know about you, but I found as a veteran, Gary and I are both vets, that it's something about service beyond yourself, working for something that is bigger than yourself. And rail ops is like that.
Yes, it is. And we always look, Dwayne and I do a lot of the interviewing for people coming in. As I was saying, I'm doing a conductor class now. And we evaluate these people to determine whether we won't waste our time training somebody that's going to be maybe a problem down the road, you know, that's not committed. And, you know, the worst thing that I hate to hear when we're doing something is, well, I'm a volunteer, I don't have to do that. You know, that's not a part of it. If you're going to be a volunteer, you're going to commit yourself just like you would if you're working in a regular job.
Yeah. As long as the act that you're asked to do is obviously a safe act.
Yes.
If somebody asks you to do something unsafe, you need to call their bluff and say, no, I don't think that's okay.
Well, in addition to that, we're not going to, if there are certain things that you don't want to do or you can't do,
right.
we're not going to hold that against you. You know, it could be something as little as you can stand there and hand me wrenches.
Yeah.
And that you're helping out.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
you're still part of the project.
You're still
right?
a part of the project. But we always look for people that are committed.
Well, heck, I just did it the other day. Yesterday, actually. Yesterday, we were draining the oil out of 6944 GP30. I literally just stood there with a hose and just watched the oil flow in. And you know what? I didn't get up there and do every single thing, but that's part of being, it's one small piece of that larger puzzle.
Yes, and that's true. And, you know, if you get involved in, like, track work, you might be asked to shovel out the ballast. You know, you might not be the one running the backhoe. You might not be the one running the spiker and all. You might be just with the shovel. But it's all a part of a bigger plan of working together and making it happen.
I know for me, I know something that keeps me motivated is even if I have to do a menial task, whether it's cleaning something out or, like you said, doing something as mundane as working with a ballast fork, is I always think about the people that came before me. Those old black and white photos, they did that work.
They did that work,
And there's no shame in that work.
Nope.
And it takes many hands to make this stuff run, because I can tell you this, and Garry will vouch, if all of us walked out of here one day, none of this, what you see, would move. None of it would continue. And that's what this is about. It's like Garry said, it's about that family-oriented type of mentality where you look out for each other. And if you see something unsafe, you call it out. I think also is when you're working together with people, it's okay to be serious. It's okay to laugh. It's okay to share what's going on with people. That's number one, is to be a real human. You know, like we're all going to look at this stuff and go, wow, that's normal. That's normal. But to get too involved, right? You've seen that before.
Yeah, we've had people that have come in that they were super rail fans. They didn't want to get their hands dirty, but they wanted to ride up the cab of a locomotive.
Right.
Well, we really don't need somebody like that. You know, how many people can we put in the cab of a locomotive, you know, that's doing nothing?
Right.
But there are perks. So you come in one day and, you know, work the track work with us. On the weekends, you might be able to bring your family down and ride in the cab of the locomotive. You know, there's in any volunteer organization, no matter what it is, there are perks for you.
And heck, you got to even run some of these big 6-axle CSX.
Yes.
And I'll flash a little bit of a B-roll of Garry operating one of the, I don't remember which one it was I have, but he's like operating one of the big ES44 ACs, DCs, whatever that thing is. But that's part of the perks, right? You've put your time in, you worked your way up the seniority ranks in here. And that's what's crucial, is respecting, I think, seniority. Would you say that's a real thing?
We definitely look at seniority here, you know, and it's important. If you've been around here that long, you should be the one to get to do the extra things and stuff like that. But even if you've first come in the door, we don't shut you down on working and being a part of it, you know. But you have an opportunity to either be nobody or work yourself all the way up to being an engineer.
Yeah. And that's what I find probably the most, you know, that's what keeps people coming back to this place, is knowing that that exists. You know, you don't have to work your way up, though. I can tell you just right here on camera, I have no business being, I don't want to run a locomotive. Those things do nothing for me. I'm happy being a conductor. That does not bother me one iota. But there are people, and that's good for them, that come in here and they want to run these things. Great, by all means, get up there and do that stuff once you put your time in. And being able to, I think, play well with it. I think that's also, so let's talk about this for a minute. You learn lessons from being a volunteer, right?
Oh, yeah.
People come in here, you have to work with a very diverse group of people. You're going to have people with different personalities, different outlooks on life,
different backgrounds.
And, you know, it's much like the military.
Yeah.
I served with God knows how many people that didn't look like me, talk like me, act like me. And you did too. And so, you know, between those two, that really teaches you how to interact with a huge group of people.
Yes, it does. And there's other things in the museum here that, in other places too, that You could be a docent, you know, but being a docent, you need to learn about the trains. You got to understand, have a background. You know, there's some people up there that are docents that they can tell you everything about that locomotive that they're in. They can tell you the mother and father of that locomotive that I don't even know, you know. But that's something that they like doing. You can work in archives, you know, in research, and get a lot of enjoyment out of that. Somebody comes and you find something that nobody knew existed in the archives. And there's other organizations around that have it. You got the Baltimore Museum of Industry that has stuff like that, and volunteers that do things. So there's so many things you can do to be a volunteer in different areas that benefit, you know, mankind and everything else, you know. You look, like Trevor said, you look around at this equipment and, you know, there's no way that a museum could fund or hold a bunch of career people to work on this equipment. You know, you have to have the volunteers that are willing to do that.
I think, too, and I've for very short gaps, I volunteered in other places. I volunteered at a hospital, actually. I would go and just talk to people, you know, people in, you know, it's like a bedside person. I just go in there. My job was just to talk to them and ask them how their experience was. That was over at St. Joe's Medical Center. I did that for a couple months. And I have to say, like, it is being able to work with others and give people something. Like Garry said, we give, people see the fruits of our labor, whether you come here for Polar Express, you come here just to ride the regular train rides, or you come here for an event, right? Operation Lifesaver, or any of that stuff. You see what we do, and if you're a part of that, you should feel very, very proud that you were a part of this larger operation.
Yes. Yeah.
You know? So this has been a really, I really enjoyed talking with you, Garry. This has been absolutely phenomenal. So our message is to get out there, and if you have that craving to go and give something of yourself to the community, make mankind better, you should really listen to that inside you and go out there and do it. Would you?
Yeah,
would you
especially if you're retired. You know, you're retired and you don't know what to want to do with yourself. If you're well off, you know, you don't need to work extra or whatever.
Yeah.
You might want to think about that, because, you know, my comment to my family and everybody is the day I stop will be the day I leave this earth. And
Yes.
I'm not gonna stop just because I'm 70 years old. I'm not going, oh, I'm getting old, I shouldn't be doing that's not going to be me. And
Is it motion is lotion?
yep.
Motion is lotion.
I mean, I know I'm slowing down. I don't shovel as good as I did or spike as good as I did, but, you know, I'm still going to push myself until I can't do it anymore, because I feel that it benefits me health-wise, and it also benefits this museum, and that's what I'm here for.
Right, and it's just that one small piece of the puzzle. So I would say get out there and listen to yourself. You know yourself. If you feel like this is a commitment that you're willing to make, get out there and do it. I think that's very important. So this is Trevor from History on the Move. This is Garry. This has been phenomenal, Garry. I really appreciate you, man.
No problem.
You're awesome. So get out there and just, you know, listen to your own heart and help benefit mankind.
There you go.